Very good morning, students. Welcome back to Revision Class 2, which is based on function overloading and member functions. Now let us see that what are the topics we are going to cover on Revision Class 2. The same warning note for the students for all the revision classes. Note, this information is for the students not to skip the videos for the betterment of the students to understand the revision concepts. First, the previous theory classes of a particular topic was being covered. Those videos will be played and followed by that revision concept on the same topic will be carried out. Now we'll see that what are the topics we are going to cover into today's session. The topics to be covered in revision class 2 are concepts of inline functions, advantages of inline function, disadvantage of inline function, friend function, characteristics of friend functions. These are the two topics which you are going to cover in the revision class 2. Students, keep it in mind that two topics are very important in today's session. So please understand the two concepts very well. Very good morning, students. Before getting into today's session, we'll just check it out. What are the topics we have been covered into the previous session? We have started a new chapter in a previous session, which we have already covered. What is function overloading, syntax with an example, and also introduction part for a function overloading. And also we have seen the advantages and the disadvantages of function overloading. We'll start our today's session by starting what is a friend function. Before knowing what is friend function, let us see why we are going to use a friend function. The concept behind the encapsulation and the data hiding restricts the non-member functions for accessing the private member of a classes. The best way to access a private data members by a non-member function is to change a private data members to a public, but it is violates the whole concept of data handling and encapsulation. To solve this problem, our friend functions are used. When we can access private or protect member, it is required to allow the function outside a class to access and manipulate the private members of the class. In C++, this is achieved by using the concept of friend. The friend comes in three forms. The friend comes in the three forms: friend function, number one, friend function, number two, member function of other class as a friend, number three, friend class. The friend function is non-member function, that is guaranteed access to the private and protect member of a classes. Once again I repeat it, the friend function is a non-member function, that is guaranteed to access the private and protect member of a class. Friend function prototype should be placed inside the class. The friend function prototype should be placed inside the class definition. Can be anywhere inside the class definition. Friend function definition should be outside the class scope. Class scope. Even though the prototype of friend function appear in the class definition, friends are not a member function. Friends are not a member function. We simply declare the function within the class by prefixing the declaration with the keyword called as a friend. The major difference between a member function and friend function is that the member is accessed through the objects. Members is accessed through the object. while friend function require an object to pass a parameter. Once again, I repeat it, the major difference between the member function and the friend function is that the member function is accessed through the object. Member function is accessed through the object, while friend function require an object to be passed as a parameter. To be passed as a parameter. This is a major difference between the member function and the friend function. After seeing a small description of a friend function, we'll see the definition of friend function. The major thing is friend function is a non-member function. Friend function is a non-member function of a class which can access the private and the protect member of a classes from one function to the another function. This is a major use why we are going to use the friend functions. Let us see what is the characteristics or features of friend function. A function name preceded by a keyword called as a friend. The first one is the function name is preceded by the keyword called as a friend. F-R-E-N-D. Friend is a keyword to declare a friend function. The scope of a friend function is not limited to the class in which it has been declared. The scope of the friend is not limited to the class in which it has been declared. Since it is not in the scope of a class, it cannot be invoked using an object of a class. Because the friend is a non-member function, so we cannot access the function by using an object of a class. It invokes like a normal function. It invokes like a normal function. It can be declared either in the public or private or in a part in any of the class part. It takes an object as an argument. It takes an object as an argument. It never takes an object to access. It takes as an object as a parameters. Unlikely the member function, it cannot access a class members directly. However, it can use the object and dot operator with each member function name to access both the private and the public. Now, we'll see the major key parts of features of friend function. A friend function is a non-member function of a class. It can access the private and protect member functions of a class. It not allowed by access specifier. It is not allowed by the access specifier. It is declared as a keyword as a friend. While defining a friend function, no need use of scope resolutor operator. Why? Because we can directly access like a normal function by using a friend function. I hope so. The friend function, you can have an idea of what is a friend functions, and we'll see that still more features in the next slide. Here we have still more features. They do not get this this pointer. They do not get this pointers. A friend function cannot be called using an object of the class. A friend function cannot be called using the object of classes. It cannot access the member data directly. It has to be use an object like object dot member name. How it is going to be accessed? By the object like object dot member name. Object dot member name. Now let us see the syntax of a friend function. How we are going to declare the syntax. Here we have a syntax. Class. Class is a keyword. Class is a keyword followed by a class name, followed by the class name. As usual, we are going to create a class. The friend function can be declared in any of the part of the class. I have declared in the syntax into the public. Public is an access specifier followed by the friend. Friend is a keyword. Friend is a keyword. Followed by a return type. Followed by a return type. Return type may be an integer or float or any other thing. Return type followed by the function name of a friend. The function name tells you the name of a friend function. As I told you that the function, the friend function, which is going to use the object as a parameter. How the parameter is being done in the sense by class name followed by the object name, with a semicolon. French function will end with a semicolon. This is a syntax how we are going to declare the friend function. After seeing the syntax, let us see the example for a friend function in the next slide. Here we have a small example for a friend function. This is a program to find the mean value by using a friend function. Or I can also tell that I'm going to find a mid value of a given two numbers. Here we'll take it as a mean itself. I have created a class called as in base. I've created a class called as in base. In that I have a two data members which comes across the private, that is value 1 and value 2. This two data members belongs to a private, and I have created one member function called as a get function. In that I am going to create a get function as enter the two values, and I have accepted a value 1 and value 2. Now let us see how I'm going to declare the prototype of a friend function. As I told you in the syntax, the friend function should be declared by using a keyword called as a friend. Friend is a keyword followed by return type. Return type, when I have into mean value, it is a decimal value. It is nothing but a floating value. So I'm going to take it as return type as a float. And I have given a name for a friend as a mean. Given a name called as a mean is a name of a friend. And I have passed the arguments or a parameter. How I'm going to pass? By using a class name called as a base. And I have created an object called as an object. This object will hold the value which is being passed from the friend function. This is how I'm going to create a prototype inside the class. Now we'll just check it out how I'm going to access the private data member like value 1 and value 2. Now let us start a main program. Void main. I have created a normal object telling that base is a class name and object 1 is an object which created for a to access the member function of a class. Object 1 is used to access the member function of a class. We can directly access object1.get. Once I access, automatically the member function belongs to a base class is being accessed, telling that get function enter the two values. Two values is being entered. After the function has been called, secondly, I'm going to go for cout mean value is the mean value. I'm going to find a mean value, where I already told you that the friend function is being called as a normal function. Friend function is called like a normal function where I have been passing a parameter. Parameter is nothing but an object which I have created in a class itself. Object which is being created in a friend function itself. Once a function has been called, it is going to go for the class and check it out whether the mean is a friend function. Yes, we have a mean as a friend function. So once you see it here, mean, whatever the mean which has been a friend function, I'm going to create the friend function outside the class, followed by a float. Float return type mean. Mean is a friend function name. Base is a class name. Base is a class name. And object which is going to hold the value of a return. Now I'm going to calculate the mean value, telling that return float object dot value 1. Already said you that the object which is being accessed by dot, dot operator, but object dot value 1 plus object dot value 2 divided by 2. If suppose I have taken as object dot value 1 as a 10, which I've been passed the value as 10, and object dot value it's to be a 20. Now 10 plus 20 it's equals to 30. 30 divided by 2, the mean value which is being stored as 15 into the object, and it returns a value where we calculated and present the result here as the mean value is 15. A 15 has been printed into the output. This is how we are going to access the friend function, like a value 1 is a private data member and value 2 is a private data members. This is how we are going to access the outside the class of a private data members. This is a small example to illustrate the friend function. I hope so that you people understood the concept of friend function. Here we are going to see one more important topic called as an inline function. What is that inline function? Inline functions are a C++ enhancement. We can also tell that it is an enhancement of C++ features to increase the execution time of a program. What is going to happen here in the sense? The compiler replaces the definition of inline function at compile time. When it is going to replace the definition of an inline function at a compile time instead of function definition at the runtime. Instead of compile time, it is going to go ahead with runtime. Clearly, I tell you that the compiler replaces the definition of inline function at compiling time instead of referencing function definition at the runtime. If function is big, if suppose the function is big, then compiler can ignore the inline function request and treat the function as a normal function. Inline function is a small function with no calling overhead. A copy of the function statement is placed directly into compiled calling program. What is that? The copy of the function statement, the copy of a function statement is placed directly into the compiled calling program, The line inline function appears prior to the main program which calls it. The inline function should be appears priorly to the main which calls it. Any inline function must precede any function that calls it, if which eliminates the needs for prototype in a calling function. In any inline function must be precede any function that calls it, which eliminates the need for a prototype in the calling function. The clear definition of inline function is: inline function is a type of function where call is replaced by function code. The major features of inline functions are: inline function definition starts with the keyword called as an inline. I-N-L-I-N-E is a keyword for the inline function. The inline function should be defined before all the function that is called it. Before calling itself, inline function should be defined. The compiler replaces the function call with a function code. Now what the compiler does? The compiler replaces the function call with the function code. They return little faster than the normal program. Normal program, instead the normal program will take little time, but in a inline function it is little faster than the normal function. Let us see how the inline function syntax is. Here we have a syntax for the inline. How we are going to write a inline function? In the sense, first, we are going to give a keyword called as an inline. Inline is a keyword. Inline is a keyword followed by a return type, followed by the return type, example float or int, etc. And we have a function name. Function name is a name given for the inline function. The function which is already been, you people already know that the function which is going to have open and close bracket. And you can also pass a parameters. And once I want to create a function codes, first I want to open the open brace and the function codes. After following all the function codes, it is being closed by a closed brace, by a closed brace. This is how you are going to create a syntax for the inline function. Let us see an example for a inline function in the next slide. Here we have a small example to demonstrate an inline function. This is a program how to find a square of given number. In this program, we are going to find a square for two numbers using a inline function. Let us see that how we are going to implement an inline function in this program. Here, I have created an inline function by using a keyword called as an inline, followed by a return type and a inline function name. My inline function name is square. Inline function name is square. In this function, I am going to pass a parameter int a. Before starting this calculation, let us see into the main program. I'm going to start my main program called as void main. Void main. I already told you that this is a program where we are going to find a two numbers squares. For the two numbers, I'm going to initialize a two variables called as an x as well as a y. I'm going to accept two numbers, that is x and y. Once we go ahead here into the next line, x is equals to the first variable, x is equals to, once a function is called, function square is called, it is going to call the function in the inline. Once an inline has been called, a copy of a function statement, the complete copy of a function statement is placed directly into the compiled calling program. Now once it has been copied into the calling program, it is going to process that a into a. It is going to process that a into a. The a value, that is int a value, which is being passed a value of 5. Now 5 is being passed to the parameter called as an a. Once a 5 is copied into a, now it is going to calculate a into a, that is 5 into 5. It is calculated, and the 5 into 5, the value of 5 into 5 is going to be calculated and is being passed to the variable called as an x. Now the x value is 5 into 5, that is 25. Once it has been calculated, it returns back, and next it is going to print that see out the square of 5 is 25. Square of 5 is 25. Now we have been found the first number square. Now again I'm going to call one more time the function called as a square. Once a function has been called, again what is going to happen is, since a copy of function statement is being placed directly, it is being placed directly into the calling program, Once a calling has been called, the complete a copy is being present here. Again it is going to pass the value of 10 is being passed to the a. value of 10 is being passed to the A, it is going to calculate return 10 into 10. Now it is being calculated 10 into 10. Now it has been calculated 10 into 10. The y value becomes as 100. Y value becomes as 100. See out the square of 10 is 100. It is going to print you as output as the square of 10 is 100 is being printed. This is how the inline function is being processing. Here you needed to clearly observe the complete body of inline that has been copied into the calling function. So once you go ahead here, we require a more memory. This is how the program has been working for a inline function. Here we will see what are the advantages of inline function. The first advantage is very efficient code can be generated. Size of object code is reduced. Speed of execution of a program increases. Reliability of a program increases. These are the different advantages once you use an inline functions. And also we have a different disadvantages of inline function. Size of executable file increases. File of executable file is increases. More memory is needed. Once you use an inline function, may not work into a if loop statement structures are used. If you use a if looping state structures cannot be used using a inline functions. These are the different disadvantages of inline functions. We will come again. What are the advantages? It is very efficient code can be generated. Size of a code is reduced. A speed of execution of a program increases. Reliability of a program increases. These are the advantages. Now we'll come again for the disadvantage. Size of executable file is increase. More memory is needed. Inline functions may not work using a looping structures. These are the different disadvantages which you have attend to inline functions. Today we have discussed two important topics, that is a friend function as well as an inline function are the two important topics which we covered today's sessions, and we'll see that what are the assignments into the next slide. Today's assignment is explain inline function with syntax and example. Second question, explain friend function with syntax and example. Third question, what are the characteristics of friend function? These are the three questions for the assignments. I hope that today's topic is well understood by you. We'll see you into the next session. Thank you.
Good morning students, welcome back to our online classes. So in today's session, this is a continuation of our function overloading chapter. So last session we discussed about two main concepts, like we discussed what is function overloading, we have discussed an example, and we discussed about the features of function overloading, and we discussed with a programming example. Okay, in today's session we'll discuss about inline function as well as friend function. So what is an inline function? Just I have written the few characteristics of inline function and the definition for inline function. So what is the need for inline function? First I'll tell. So usually what happens when we give a function call, what happens when the compiler gives for a function call, it allocates separate memory for that. It will go to the specified function where the function definition has been written. There it has to allocate the memory for the local variable, and it starts executing the body of the function, and it returns the function call to the main program where it has called. I repeat, when a main program calls the function, the compiler gives the main program, just gives the control, it goes to the function definition where it has been written, there it executes the complete function, then it returns the control to the main functions where the function has been called. Okay, this creates a overhead in handling the memory and executing the function code which has been written somewhere else. So instead of doing this, we write the inline function. When we call a function call is replaced. It is replaced by the body of the function. I repeat, when we give a function call is replaced by the body of the function. It is as it is in the main program. It is not going somewhere else, executing, then returning the control. Where the program is written, there itself it expands. Okay, if I call inline cube, so cube function, the definition for cube has been expanded within the main program. So when there is a function call, the body of the function is the function call is replaced by the body of the function. We call that as the inline function. So I have written the definition. So the inline function is a short function. The compiler replaces a function call with the body of the function. So when there is a function call, it is replaced by the body of the function. What are the features of inline function? Inline function definition starts with the keyword inline. I repeat, it has a keyword inline. Then the inline function should be defined before all the functions that call it. Okay, so the inline function should be defined before we give a function call. Why? Because when there is a function call, it will be replaced by the body of the function. So it has to be predefined before all the functions that call it. Okay. Next, the compiler replaces the function call statement with the function code. This is nothing but the definition for an inline function. When there is a function call, the compiler replaces the function call with the body of the function. Next, they run little faster than normal function as function calling overheads are saved. Okay. So as I told, there is an overhead in calling the function and executing the function somewhere else. Okay. So what we do is, instead of going to the function executing, then returning returning the control to the main function, the function call replaces the body of the function. So the time is reduced, the overhead is reduced. It saves the time and the overhead is completely eradicated. Why? Because when there is a function call, the function call is replaced by the body of the function. So what are the features? The inline functions will have a keyword called inline. Okay, when there is a function call, the inline function has to be predefined before all the functions it's call it. Then a function call is replaced by the body of the function. Because this function call is replaced by the body of the function, our overhead is reduced and it saves the time. Okay, so these are the features of inline function. Next, we'll discuss the advantages of inline function and disadvantages of inline function. Student, next we'll discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of inline function. So I just put a few points on the board. You can go through. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of inline function? This they may ask for 5 marks. As I told in this chapter, there is only possibility of only one 5-mark question. So it could be anything. It can be like they may ask you what is function overloading, explain with a programming example, or they may ask you to explain what is inline function, explain with an example, or they may ask you to explain the inline function, list or mention the advantages and disadvantages of inline functions too. Okay, like this also they may ask, mention the advantages and disadvantages of inline functions. Otherwise, they may ask you the programming example. So initially what we have seen about the inline function, the features of inline function. Now we'll see the advantages of inline function. So first and foremost, please note the definition for inline function. If you know the definition for inline functions, there are the advantages and disadvantages is very easy. So the definition is, inline function is a short function. The compiler replaces a function call with the body of the function. So if you know that much, based on that only the advantages goes like this. So the inline function, member function or compact function calls. So I told the inline functions are compact function calls. Moreover, inline functions can have a short, if the function code is very short code, in such cases we can implement inline functions. If the function code is too long, we cannot go for inline function. So they are telling the inline member functions are compact functions, which is small. Okay, so therefore the size of the object code is considerably reduced. First you should tell it's a compact function. Because it's a compact function, the object code is reduced. Okay, next, the speed of execution of a program increases. As it is a short code, the executability is easy, the speed is also good. Okay, the speed of execution of a program increases, the speed increases. Next, very efficient code can be generated. Because it is compact, because the object code is small, the execution speed is high. What happens finally? Code efficiency. Okay, code efficiency, that means very efficient code can be generated. Next, readability. What do you mean by readability? If you write 1000 lines of code, what the 1000 lines of code will do? The same work can be done by writing 100 lines of code, in the sense that is very efficient, isn't it? That means the code is optimized. The same operations which 1000 lines of program can do, the same function if 100 lines of programs is doing, in the sense that means the 100 lines of program gives you the more readability. As the code size decreases, the readability increases. I repeat, once you write a short function, short source code, the readability of the program increases, okay, and efficiency also increases, speed is also increases, okay. So I repeat, there are 5 advantages. The inline member function is a compact function call. Because it is compact, the size of the object code is reduced considerably. It is reduced. The speed of execution of a program increases. It's very efficient code. The readability of the program increases. Next, the disadvantage: the more memory is needed. Because the function call is replaced by the body of the function, it requires more memory to execute the function. So more memory is needed. That is only the disadvantage. Okay. Next we will go to the example of inline function. So when they ask you for 5 marks how to explain the inline function with the programming example, you have to give the definition. Then you need to write this programming example. Very simple. Very simple. If at all they may ask, if they are not asking directly to explain with an example, by using inline function, they may ask you to write the cube of a number or square of a number. In this example, I have taken square of a number, cube of a number. Instead of writing 2a, you just write add one more a. That's the only difference. Don't get confused. Inline function, we are taking a number. How to find a square of a number? By using inline function. That is the program task. What the program is going to do, it's going to find the square of a number. Okay, when we are going to find the square of a number, we just take 2. We are just going to multiply a into a. A square is nothing but a into a. If you want to find the cube of a number, a cube, a into a only. That is the difference. Okay, so you can take both the examples, square or cube, it's up to you. So I have taken square. Write a program to find square of a number using inline function. So first you need to include the header files. After that you need to define the inline function body, the body of inline function, what it has. Before writing the main function, before calling the inline function, the definition of the inline function has to be clearly defined. Okay. So I have the keyword inline. When I was talking about the features, I told before your function name you should write the keyword inline. So what is my function here? Square. Okay, square is my inline function. How will I get to know that is the inline function? There is a keyword which has been prefixed before a function name, that is inline. Okay, what are the argument I am passing? I am passing one argument, that is a. Why? Because we are going to multiply a twice to find the square of a number. So a into a, I am returning to the function call. Next, because I am writing here return 0, the return type of the main function is integer. If I don't write any return type, it will be void main. If your program is returning something to the main function, we have to write the return type. Here the return type is integer. Why? Because I am returning 0. Okay. Now in the main program, I am just declaring the program execution begins from the main program. So x and y are integer. I am just square of 5. I am just giving to x. So what I am going to do? I am going to call the function square of 5. Square of 5 is an inline function. When there is a function call, the function call is replaced by the body of the function. Now, in place of square 5, I am just going to replace the entire body. So what square will do? A into a. 5 into 5 is 25. Now x will be having the value 25. What is x value? X will be having 25. Okay. Next, the output will be the square of 5. The square of 5 equal to 25. Next, y is equal to square of 10. See, n number of times if you want to call the inline function, you can call whenever you are calling the inline function, the function call is replaced by the body of the function. What is my function call here? Square of 10. So what is getting replaced? The body of the function, square of 10. So what is square of 10? 10 into 10 is 100. Okay, 10 square is 100. The value is stored in y. So what is my y? Y will be having 100. Okay, so the square of 10 is y. So what is my y value? 100. Next I am returning 0. to your main function. Why? Because the return type is integer. So this is about an inline function. Now when they ask you to explain an inline function with a programming example, you can give this example. See, this is the definition for inline function and this is your main program. Okay, so you need to be very specific while writing the inline function. If you skip this keyword inline, it will become a normal function. Make sure you prefix your function with the keyword called inline. Okay, so next we'll see about friend function. Okay, student, next we discuss about friend function. So what is friend function? First I'll tell you the definition for friend function. Friend function is a non-member function. I repeat, friend function is not the member function of a class. Friend function is a non-member function, okay, which is having, when we write a friend function, it has to be prefixed with the keyword friend. Okay, friend function is a non-member function. It is prefixed with the keyword friend. Now you see the syntax. So when I am defining a class, now fun1 is my friend function. How will I know that is my friend function? You have to prefix it with the keyword called friend. So friend function is not the member function of the class. Okay, friend function is a non-member function of the class. When we try to define the definition for friend function, it should be defined outside the class. Outside the class, like a normal function, how we used to define, without using the scope resolution operator, we have to define the friend function. Okay, outside the class, we have to define the friend function, and friend function is a non-member function of a class. When we want to access the public data members, non-member functions. So the non-member functions can be accessed, even the member functions of the class can be accessed by a non-member function called friend. I repeat, the member functions of the class can be accessed by a non-member function called friend. For example, here in the example I have taken my class as my class name. I have private int A and B. A and B are my data member. That is private. My access specifier is private. Okay. That means outside the class we can't use A and B. Now I have two member function. One is setval and add. Okay. Now you see, setval is a member function of the class my class. Okay. But add is not a member function. It is a non-member function, but it is a friend function. What is add? Add is a friend function. What is friend function? Friend function is a non-member function. It is not the member function of my class. It is only a friend function. Now what is friend function here? Add is a friend function to the class called my class. Okay. So this is about the declaration. Now we'll see while defining the my set value and add. When we want to define add and set value, when we give the definition for this two member function, see how I am going to define. When I am defining set value is a member function of the class called my class. In this case, what I have to do, I have to tell the return type, I have to tell the class name, I am using scope resolution operator. Now I am using set val, then I am just initializing int I and j. Okay, here I am giving the I to A, j to b. Okay, but wherein in add, see for add I am only telling the return type, I am not using the class name, I am not using scope resolution operator. Why? Because friend function is a non-member function of my class. Okay, now add my class object, I am creating object of my class. Now by using this object, see I am accessing the private data. I mean the data number which is being private can be accessed by your friend function. Now object A, object B. What is the access specifier private is? The data members cannot be accessed. If it's private, we cannot access it outside the class. But by creating object of the class and by using a friend function, we can access A and B. Okay, next in the main function, I am just going to create the object of my class. My class name is my class. I am going to create the object. Object name is object itself. Don't get confused. This is my class name. This is my object. Object name is object itself. Now object dot set val. I am going to set the value to 34 and 56. So A value is 34, B value is 56. What I am going to do? Add is going to add 34 and 56. What is 34 and 56? 90. Okay. So the sum of 34 and 56 is add.obj. So what add? There is a function call. Now this is my function call. What add will do? 34 and 50. What is the value? 90. So the output will be sum of 34 and 56 is 90. Okay. So this is the working of your, why I am writing, I told you why it is int here. Why? Because I am returning 0. If you don't want to mention this statement, you can just give here as void. So if it's void main, you should not return 0 here. Okay. Now this is the example for friend function. So what is friend function? Friend function is a non-member function. Okay, we prefix before the function name. We just prefix with the keyword called friend. Okay, then later we discuss the example of syntax of friend function as well as the example program for friend function. Again, this is a 5-mark question. They may ask you what is friend function, explain with an example. So friend function is a non-member function, that is a friend of a class. The friend function is declared within a class with the prefix friend. Always within the class you are declaring it, but you are not defining it. When you are going to define it, it should be always outside the class. So these are the features of friend function. Moreover, when we are giving the definition for friend function, we should not use scope resolution operator. We should not use the class name. How a normal function is defined, like that we have to define the member function. But what is the special feature of friend function? Even the private data members can be accessed by using the friend function. Outside the class, we are not supposed to access the private data members, but by using friend function we can access it. Okay, this is about the function overloading chapter. I just brief out what we have discussed. We have just seen what is function overloading, what is how we have discussed the syntax as well as an example. Next we have just discussed the inline function. So inline function, what we have discussed, the features of inline function, definition, then we discussed about the advantages, disadvantages, then we discussed the friend function. Friend function we discussed the definition, syntax as well as the programming example. So the possibility of one 5-mark question is short from this chapter. So if you are prepared for function overloading, I think you are preparing for 4 5-mark questions. Like what is function overloading? Function overloading. So what is first question? Explain the need for function overloading. 5-mark question, or whatever question I am going to read out, all carries 5 marks. Explain the need for function overloading. Discuss overloaded functions with syntax and example. Explain inline function with syntax and example. Explain friend function and their characteristics. Okay, explain friend function and the characteristics. These are the possible questions. Thank you.